I knew I was going to be chosen, so I wrote this down. My husband has been diagnosed with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. It mostly manifests itself unwanted, intrusive, bad thoughts 24/7. And he obsesses, and I understand that this is something that he has attracted at some point early on. But nevertheless, as it is right now, it does not seem to be manageable in the same way the rest of us can manage negative thought, and hence the diagnosis and the need for treatment. So my first question is, as his attention is uncontrollably drawn to these bad thoughts, how can this type of thinking exist in his mind and not draw all those unwanted things to him and to me?
Wonderful question. Here's the big answer, and you'll hear it easily. We've been talking about the flow within the flow within the flow within the flow. Well, the larger flow is one of well-being. The larger flow is one of well-being. And your participation in it, you have something to say about the co-creation that you are working on, you see. Now, let's approach this from a few different perspectives. So as you or his doctor focus upon him, and you see him where he is, and you give him that label, and then you worry about him or you push against him, now you contribute to that flow rather than to the greater flow. So you've got some decisions that you can make in every moment. You can focus upon him as he is and join him where he is, as Esther thought she wanted Jerry to do. Or you can stay focused on the bigger picture. You can stay focused upon the happy ending. And as you focus upon the bigger picture, you do what Jesus did in his ability to heal. You see him as he really is, and you let how he really is be the dominant vibration within you, which goes a long way in that current. In other words, there's a lot of that that's already going on. So now we want to approach the specifics of this uncomfortable situation that he is in, because certainly these are not thoughts that he would deliberately choose. They are extremely painful to him. But it comes back to what we were talking about earlier about this gravitational pull, and it really doesn't serve any of us to try to figure out when it got started. But it is absolutely valuable to start where he is and try to walk into a place of more comfort. So the thing that we want you to contemplate just briefly here is, as someone who wants to help him go with the flow, and you're getting the sense of this, who wants to help him begin to see life and his life and his placement in life in the way that his source energy does, in the way that his life has caused him to become. And we got to tell you, when somebody is living something that dramatic, they are filling their vibrational escrow full of even more wonderful things than somebody who's living very little contrast at all. So his future experience is shining really bright. In fact, the brighter it shines, the worse he feels, because the greater the contrast between where he is and what the larger part of him has become. You're following that? So as you are contemplating him, you can look at where he is, or you can look at what's coming from it, and the way you feel is your indication of whether you're going with the flow, and the same is true for him. So here's what goes wrong with therapists and wives and husbands and mothers. Here's what goes wrong with anyone who wants to teach someone how to get into a better place. You ready? This is so big. You think that they should be able to know what you know and feel what you feel. Why can't you see it the way I see it? Why can't you see what I see? I see it so clearly. And your implication is you must be, what was the word?
I don't know. OCD, obsessive compulsive. Is that what you're looking at?
There was another word you gave after. It meant defective, deformed, disordered.
Yes, disordered. Yeah, I guess that's it.
You must be wrong, broken, evil, inappropriate, bad, because you don't see what I see. And that's what goes wrong with almost all teaching, is that you're asking for something that cannot be. You're asking for someone to see through your eyes. And no one can see through your eyes. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where you were so clear about it, and you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and at the end you understand that they didn't get anywhere near where you were? That 2 hours on the telephone, and the last thing they said to you meant you made no progress at all? And the reason is because you're on 98.7 and they're on 6:30 a.m. and to them it just sounds like blah, 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 blah. They're not getting it, you see. And so the thing that we want you to understand is that it's not possible for you to say anything, no matter how clearly you know it, that's going to make any difference in someone in a situation. Like if Esther, for heaven's sakes, couldn't drag herself out of the funk over paving, can you imagine what the vibrational variance must be between someone who has had this going on for a while? In other words, it's a big vibrational variance. So stop and acknowledge that each of you are where you are, and that where each of you are is okay. And if you can hear that from us and know that and mean it, so that for the first time ever, when you look at your husband, you really feel where you are is where you are and it's okay, because you can get to wherever you want to be from where you are. Feel how much softer that is than to call it whatever you're calling it and give it whatever labels you're giving it. Diagnoses, these are so detrimental, because do you know that as we watch people who are on this vibrational emotional scale, and someone is in this place where their emotion and their physical condition match, and they are experiencing evidence of illness, in the moment of the diagnosis of the illness, almost without exception, there is a spiking of the illness. There's a dramatic increase in the illness as they turn powerfully against the flow and begin moving in opposition and exaggerate it. That's why so often one illness leads to another and another and another and another and another. They just get on a roll of that, where they begin focusing upon their powerlessness. So, having said all of that, you want to say something?
Yeah, but how does one... we've had many discussions about you and how he needs someone to explain it to him as if he were Kate, you know, or sort of understand that he's not attracting these bad thoughts, in order to sort of understand what...
Well, he is attracting those bad thoughts.
That wasn't the answer I was looking for.
Well, in other words, he's having the thoughts that he's having because, as we said to our friend earlier, there's no exception to law of attraction. It is everywhere. And nobody's getting anything that is coming other than by law of attraction. So it's as simple as this. He's there. It's how he feels. And because it's there and how he feels, he's getting more of it. In other words, it's the cycle. I'm looking at that, I don't like it, but I'm looking at that so I get more, and now I'm looking at that and I don't like it, but I'm looking at that so I get more. So the only way to break that cycle is to look over there. But the thing that goes wrong with most teachers is that they say, here's where you are, look over there. And it isn't possible to look over there, but he could look there and might feel a little relief, and then he could look there, and he might feel a little relief, and then he could look there. And so what you're wanting to help him to understand is that, first of all, these thoughts aren't bad. These thoughts are thoughts. It's like you go into a bookstore or a library, and there are endless books, and the book isn't good or bad. It is a book. It just is. It just is. And it might be a book you want to read, and it might not be a book you want to read. So you might ask him, if you went into a library and you picked up the first book that you saw on the table and you opened it and it had a horrible plot of somebody killing someone and it was gory and detailed, would you say, I'm evil, I'm wrong, I'm broken because I've read this book? Or would you just say, no, I was just not very deliberate. I was sloppy. I just picked up the book. In other words, it doesn't mean I'm bad. And you said it as clearly as we could. It is what it is. It is what it is. I am where I am, and where I am is all right. We want you to really internalize this analogy that we've been offering about Jerry and Esther and their navigational system, and how when they program in their desired destination, the system doesn't turn on them and say, how foolish of you to be where you are. I refuse to guide you to this new place from where you are. Because where you are is where you are. You can get to anywhere you want to be from where you are. So what you want to, the attitude that we want you to have about your husband is just that. You are where you are, and it's not where you want to be, but where you are is okay. Because when you take away all your judgment about the inappropriateness of where he is, and all your angst about how much happier his life and your life would be if he weren't there, if you can just objectively say you are where you are and you can get anywhere from where you are, so let's just start. And then further, if you could help him understand it, and this is the part that we can give you that's going to take a while before you can give it to him. What he really believes is that because he feels this way and because he feels so bad, he believes that he is bad. And there isn't anything that will perpetuate more of that than believing that you're inappropriate. When you get into that victim mode, when you think that you are being victimized for any reason, there is such a perpetuation of that. And so that's the thing that you've got to let loose of, and you can let loose of it because you understand law of attraction. So as you begin to think thoughts about, well, you are where you are and you can get anywhere. And then you help him to understand, but you're not setting those standards of getting all the way over there into frolicking happiness and joy, that you're just looking for any improvement. So as he begins talking about these thoughts, what you want to start reaching for and guiding him toward is, I think you've had a lot darker thoughts than those. This thought feels like an improvement to me. Does it to you? And at first he might be belligerent enough not to be willing to even notice that there is any relief. But if you can get him focused on the slightest relief factor between one thought and another, you can then show him, because you see, this is so good. This is the thing that he does not know, and you don't know it yet either, that we know that we want you to know so you can help him know it. Because those thoughts have been activated for a while, he thinks he has no control within them. When you start showing him that this thought feels slightly better, and you encourage him to try to think that thought instead of that thought, you're going to show him a modicum of control. And when you show him that slight little bit of control, then he will be able to exercise a little bit more control. And you're going to be able to help him understand that he does have the capacity to continue to improve the control of his thoughts. And that is what he needs to know. That's what all of you need to know. You can't control circumstances, and you can't control what other people do, and you can't control what your government does, and you can't control this and that and the other, but you can control whether you choose this thought or this thought. You can't control, here it is. You can't control whether you choose this thought or this thought, because if you've been vibrating here, that's where you've got to go. In other words, it's got to be someplace in that proximity. You can't control this thought over this thought, but you can control this thought over this thought, and this thought over this thought, and this thought over this thought, and this thought over this thought. And before you know it, you've gotten yourself back into the vibrational vicinity of who you really are, and then your need for control evaporates completely, because you're in the flow of well-being, and now your every whim, your every preference, your every delight, your every desire is preceding you, and you're in that flow, so that there's nothing for you to push against.
So it's the incremental movement to a new paradigm, as it were.
Well stated. But we would say it softer. We would say, where you are is okay, and I want you to feel better, and I hope that together I can help you find a thought that feels a little bit better. And little by little by little, you're going to feel better. But where you are is okay. You're not wrong for being where you are. You're just in pain. And I don't want you to be in pain. But you're not wrong for being where you are. And I don't know that anybody that had lived whatever you've lived that has brought you to that place wouldn't be exactly where you are. There's nothing wrong with being where you are. And the only reason I'm having this conversation with you, tell him, is because you're unhappy where you are. And I don't want you to be unhappy where you are. And I think that you deserve something much better than that. But I don't think that any of us can quantum leap into joy from where you are. Nobody should expect to do that. Nobody has ever done that. Nobody can do that. Where you are is where you are. But you can get to a better feeling place, and just let that be your constant mantra. And it is our promise to you that it will take so much less time than you think. The thing that makes it look like it takes a long time is when you go Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma. It takes you forever to get to San Diego. When you're sick, and then you're reaching toward hope, and then you get worried, and then you're reaching toward hope, and then you get worried, and you're reaching toward hope, the sickness stays. Different places, different faces, but the vibration stays, you see. And so, powerful thing we want to say to you. Your husband has launched more powerful rockets than almost anybody you know. And this motion up this emotional scale is not going to be the difficult journey that his doctors have made it out to be. Do not worry about the medication. Don't try to get him off of it. Don't worry about any of that, because it's not going to hinder his ability to move up this emotional scale. And you don't lose sight of the bigger picture. You keep focusing upon the happy ending, but don't shove your happy ending down his throat.
Oh, now that's really hard.
That is so annoying.
Yeah.
Good time for a segment of refreshment. Segment of lunch. We are complete. And are you refreshed? Yes. Good. Now what is it you are wanting to talk about? More things. Begin right here. Yes.